Cornering is probably the hardest thing about riding any sort of bike, and I don't think you ever truly master it. But in this video, we're going to explain every single cornering skill, why you should do them, how they work, and how to do it. I always think about physics when it comes to cornering a bike properly. Easy to think about this. Think about Formula 1 car, super low, versus a 4x4 like Blake's Jeep. Massive, too high, silly high. Can't corner for crap. So the lower you can get your bike, your weight, to the floor, the better you're going to corner. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. First one is lowering your outside foot. So in a corner, going that way, you can start dropping your outside foot down, getting the weight onto it. So what I try and do is try and pressure that foot. So start taking weight off the inside a little bit and getting the weight onto that foot. But also you can bring your body down to the bike. I tend to think about weight as hips, because yes, you can move your chest around a bit and it will make some difference, but really think about that as your center of weight and bringing it down to the bike. The only times you don't want to do that is if you're riding a rough track. So if you get low to the bike and then you hit a compression, you've got no room to soak it up. Same goes with outside foot. The more technical and rougher it gets, the less I'll do it. And you can do it just a bit, sort of 60-40, just bringing it down a little bit. If it gets really rough or really technical, then you'll go back to just riding flat pedals with your cranks nice and level. Two more things. Try and drive your heel down if you can in the corner. So rather than being too flat or even toe down, you can get away with it a bit on clips, but it's just better habit to be slightly heel down so you're driving the bike through the corner. And if for any reason the bike slows down, like you hit an obstacle or you sort of stuff the front end in too hard and the front wheel slides, it can slow the bike down as well. If you don't have your heel down, it can start sending weight forward. So try to drive the bike through the corner. Other thing is also if you've got your outside foot down and your bike slides, you've then got all your weight on it, so you can take the weight off the inside foot and then just dab. Hopefully that'll save you from crashing. So we've said about weight low. Now think about your weight front to back on the bike. You want both tyres to be gripping equally so that you don't get caught out by a front wheel slide. I guess if it is a bit slippy, I'd rather weight the front wheel a bit too much so the back wheel gives me a bit of warning, start sliding. Much easier to save that than the front tyre slide. So balancing the weight, this is a complicated thing. You can talk about this for a long time. For me, I'm really sensitive to my bar height, but also the fork, the air pressure in there, how much sag you've got, how hard it is, so that my bike feels balanced. You know, if it's too soft, it'll dive too much and weight goes too far forward. Too hard, you miss out on that small bump sensitivity, so you don't get the grip in those corners. So difficult one, but what I try and do is keep my sort of hips in the middle. And if I do want to put a bit more weight on the front tyre, then I do bring my chest down, sort of bias that front wheel a little bit. But like I said, there's a lot to think about there. The one mistake people make, I think, is going to the back of the bike. When they feel a bit scared of a corner, it's easy to feel like it's safer to the back, which most of the time it is, to be fair. But in a cornering situation, you're taking weight off the front wheel and then that's the one that's going to catch you out. Of course, you've got to be careful with brakes as well. If you're dabbing the front brake in a corner, it's going to slide. But we'll talk about brakes a bit more later on. But just think about weight front to back. Looking where you want to go, super important. I talk about this quite a lot in many different skills, to be fair. It's almost like, you know, it's easy to look at a tree. You think, oh, going flat out when you get close to that tree. You look at it, you probably get even closer or even hit it. So I try and use that for positive, especially with cornering, try and look to where I want to be on the exit. I never quite nail this, I have to tell myself all the time, especially if I don't ride very often. I'll forget to do it and I'll start looking down. So look where you want to go, but also it does open your sort of body up to go in there. Chest and hips. If you're looking around the corner, it's much easier for your sort of hips to twist into the turn. I don't think about hips, if I'm honest. I know some coaches say about turn your hips into corner. I think if you can think about too many things, possibly. So I like to concentrate on my footwork and where I'm looking. I think there's a lot of good mountain bikers will have those first things I've talked about nailed, outside foot, looking around corners. The next one where people then probably need to push on their riding a bit more is then thinking about leaning the bike over. And again, a bit like the feet, you don't always want to do this, but bringing your weight to the outside of the bike, remember hips, weight, to the outside of your saddle and then the bike going into the corner is a really nice way of doing it. A bit like the outside foot. If it's too far over and you drift, you've got more chance of saving it. A bit like being able to dab with your inside foot. If I'm now leant over like this, nailing it around a turn, and then I feel a bit of a slide, I can then bring the bike back up to me to bring it in line with me. Whereas if you're committed to riding in the sort of same angle as your bike and then it slides, your weight will then go to the inside, and that's where most cornering crashes happen. If your weight for some reason goes off the inside of the bike, a bit like a superbike MotoGP rider, it's a different thing. You don't really want to be hanging your weight off the inside very often, although in some cases you do. So more often than not, leaning the bike over works well. Where you don't want to do it, again, a bit like the outside foot. If you're riding something really technical or hitting a big compression like a big berm, you want to be in a more strong position on the bike, and that is in line with the bike, probably again with your feet balanced over both feet, not just on the outside foot. I think the reason why you never truly master corners is because there's so many different variables. Things like line choice and braking are always kind of changing. You could find the perfect corner in the perfect conditions and there'll be the best line and somewhere to stop braking, but you could ride the same corner next day and it's rained and it's different. And obviously, like here, you've got different things. You've got cambers, you've got rocks, you've got some really good conditions today. So this is where I can get a bit more creative. There's so much grip here. And actually in this corner, I'll show you a bit of that time when I'm kind of getting off the inside of the bike a little bit. It's unusual because sometimes I use it, it's what I call muscling the bike around the corner. You kind of force the bike into doing it with your weight off the inside, but you can't leave your weight there for too long. It's a case of getting the bike turned and then getting back above it. Different dirt's going to have sort of different characteristics as well, but this sort of soft, loamy sand and these tyres, so grippy today. I guess when it comes to the most advanced skills when it comes to cornering, it's learning how to drift, and this is a great place for it. It's nice and soft. You can start biasing the weight on the front wheel a bit too much until the rear wheel starts going, and then go a bit quicker until they both start slipping. And it's a great thing to be able to do because you then get a feel for the real balance on your bike. So when you're not on something quite so safe, you've got a great idea where you've got to be to get the most grip out of your bike. The next one is counter steering. So I guess you are doing this probably when you're drifting anyway. Your back wheel's out here and your front wheel isn't in line with the bike anymore. You're just leaning into the drift. But actually sort of counter steering to start corners is a little bit different. It looks the same because although I'm turning right, sometimes you need to turn the bars slightly left, and that lets your weight go to the inside of the bike, a bit like just there where I'm muscling the bike round. You know, if I'm struggling to get the bike lent into this corner, if I just counter steer a little bit the wrong way, my weight's going to go to the inside and then I can muscle the bike around. If I'm honest, I don't really know how to practice this. It's something that you can see pro riders, if you look at slow-mo sometimes, you'll see their front wheel pointing the wrong way into a corner. But as far as actually practicing this, maybe just try it on the flat and get a feel for what that does. So turn left and then swing the bike in right, or opposite obviously. But yeah, it's worth trying a little bit. You might be doing this naturally without thinking about it, but it's one of those cases when you feel like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get the bike turned for that corner. Sometimes it'll help. Right, let us know down in the comments if you've got any more questions about cornering skills. I think it's pretty normal to be better at cornering one way. I know that I can turn left a bit better. I do ride left foot forward, which I think is probably the reason why, because it's easier to drop your outside foot just a little bit, and I'm not as good on right-handers. But yeah, let us know if that's the same case for you. Comments down below.